If you've been thinking about getting into elopement photography, but you're not sure where to start, this episode is for you. This week's episode is the audio for my 2025 presentation at Elopement Con, the virtual educational summit for elopement photographers, and is one of the most requested talks we've had. Inside this episode, entitled How to Get Started as an Elopement Photographer, I break down the actual roadmap. Not the dreamy Instagram version, but a practical one. I talk about the gear you actually need and what you don't, how to build a portfolio the right way, why focusing on one location can change everything, the systems, permits, planning, and mindset traps that trip most people up. If you're wondering, could I really be an elopement photographer? This is your starting point, so let's dive in.
Welcome to Stoked, the podcast that helps adventure elopement photographers hit six figures and beyond in their businesses without hustling on social media. I'm your host, Megan McPhail, a former burnt-out emergency veterinarian that quit my hard-earned career to become an elopement photographer. Now I'm living a life I absolutely love, full of travel, adventure, and financial abundance, and I am hell-bent on helping you do the same. Are you ready to start booking out your calendar with dream couples in breathtaking locations and feeling genuinely stoked about your elopement photography business, life, and bank account? Then let's dive into this week's episode.
All right. Hello, I am Todd Reedy. So what we're going to cover today is the map of becoming an elopement photographer. So I'm going to cover a couple slides on the why, my thoughts on gear, on portfolio building, some systems that we need to make and put into place, the logistics, and what your job actually entails and what separates being an elopement photographer from being a wedding photographer. And then some pitfalls and mindset traps that we see often with a lot of our coaching students. And then finally, kind of the top first couple of steps to actually break into elopement photography. So with all that being said, let's dive on in. So we'll start off, it's kind of a cliche and kind of a very like buzzwordy thing of the why in my ear quotes here. And so if you're here, it's a good start. It means you're at least interested in taking on elopements. And so you may have a lot of different reasons on why you want to do that. Personally, I just think that they're awesome. They vibe with what I value. The people are cool. I love being out in nature and love going on adventures. So basically, that's kind of the nut and bolts of my why, but you may have a lot of different reasons. Maybe you're a wedding photographer and you're tired of giving up all of your weekends over the summer and the fall. Or maybe you just don't necessarily vibe with the ethics or how wasteful weddings are. Who knows? Whatever your why is, it's important to put some thought and some time into why you want to take on or go into the elopement space. It's very important to basically establish that beforehand because building a business, just like any business, there's going to be tough times. And so knowing that why and having a reason to fall back on and having the passion for it will help you get through some of those hard times. So the next thing is why you're more ready than you may think. So if you have a camera, you know how to shoot it in manual mode, you know lighting, you know composition. Basically, you just know how to be a photographer on any kind of spectrum. You're in a good place. So you're probably ready. So we are going to talk about gear. Some people are huge into gear. Other people don't care. I am a gear fanatic. I could talk about gear all day. I could spend all of my money buying gear, but turns out when you're trying to run a business, buying all of the coolest and the latest gear doesn't really work out. So let's talk about kind of where to start and then maybe where you want to evolve to. But first off, gear is your tools. So like any profession or occupation, you have tools. And though you do get what you pay for and they do help you out a lot, like your creativity and your person and your business is going to run whether you have the shittiest camera or the top of the line. Yeah, the quality may be a bit different, but the total experience that you're giving to your clients is independent of the gear. So kind of keep that in mind. It is important, but it's not the whole package. Just getting started, though, the bare minimum that I would recommend, and again, probably people have across the board different opinions on this, but I'll share my opinion on the matter. To be a professional elopement photographer, the bare minimum is having one camera and one lens. That's all you really need to get started. However, knowing that you are capturing once in a lifetime opportunities of an elopement or a wedding, you do need to have some redundancies to make sure you don't lose that data and those files. So I think it's probably across the board. People would say that if you are going to just have one camera, you need and absolutely must have a dual card slots. So basically, that means if you're new to the camera space, basically it saves on two different cards. So if one gets corrupted, your data is saved somewhere else. So that's kind of the bare minimum. The optimum setup, in my opinion, for shooting an elopement for photography is having two cameras, both having dual card slots, and then three lenses. Obviously, if you do the math there, you can't be shooting it, obviously, more than one camera at once. But it is nice to be able to switch back and forth between your two cameras where you may have two lenses, as well as then having that third lens is just another option to give you basically more reach to be able to get basically more dynamic and create a better, more diverse gallery. When it comes to lenses, this is my list of kind of in order if I were to buy one at a time. So if I had to buy only a single lens, I'd buy a 24 to 70 millimeter first. This gives you the ability to zoom in pretty close, get those tight shots of your couples that they're going to want to see. I mean, they're sharing these moments with not only their family and friends, but they want to look back and like see what they look like. So like really zoomed in. So 70 millimeters is a good space to get really tight. But then 24 allows you to kind of back up and get the whole picture, right? They're eloping in a really cool spot, whether that's in a city, in the mountains, in the desert, wherever it is. Like getting a wide angle is super important to kind of share and set the scene of where that elopement is. So that would be my very first lens if I only had to buy one. The other two next ones, if you're going to skip the 24 to 70, the two that I would get for primes would be a 50 and the 35. The 50 is known kind of in the photography space as the 50 or the nifty 50. It's closest to what the eye kind of sees. So it's the most natural photos to look at is with a 50 millimeter lens. And then same thing as I mentioned before with the 24 to 70, being able to shoot a really wide is amazing. So the 35 really does capture that pretty well too. Then the next lens would be the 70 to 200 millimeter. And so this one's really great for ceremonies. Again, if it's just the couple in the elopement or if there's guests, whatever it may be, you don't want to be right up in their face during that intimate moment. When they're saying their vows, right, you need to give them a little bit of space. And so having that 70 to 200 millimeter lens allows you to step further back, allow them to have their space and their room to have their intimate moment, but still being able to capture basically really zoomed in and like tears dropping, like a quiver of a lip, all the different things. Like having that reach and be able to get those close up shots from a distance is epic. That's my initial talk on gear. Yeah, I think that's what you need to get started and then kind of what to progress towards. I will say again, as a gear fanatic, you could spend all of your money, all your time researching the very best and best and greatest equipment and gear out there. So when I first started in the video space, but then also photos, like, yeah, I want to have all of the cool stuff. So drone, hell yeah, I want a drone. But to actually buy the drone, learn how to fly it right, to launch it on a given day, yeah, you'll get some really cool shots. But compared to those other lenses that I spoke about in the previous slides, you just won't get that much versatility. Again, you can get a lot more photos on any of those other lenses and your main camera bodies than it does to take the time to launch your drone and get anything like that. So I would recommend if you have a drone, awesome, use it, but it shouldn't be in your top couple of purchases as a new elopement photographer. I should also say a lot of the places that you may be photographing elopements don't allow drones or have very strict drone rules. So again, you may buy it, but then if you're shooting a lot in national parks, you can't use it at all. So it doesn't make sense. A few other things that you may think that, oh yeah, it'd be great if I had this, but they're just really expensive. So first off, like a fancy ass computer, like Apple sells, computers into the tens of thousands of dollars. You don't need that. You do need a solid computer that you can run for several years and edit your images. Do your research. That's probably in like maybe $1,000 range, plus or minus, depending on when you watch this and the manufacturers, if you're going to build it yourself or just buy it over the shelf. Just depends. But you don't need to spend many, many thousands of dollars to process your images. Next thing would be like a GoPro or action cam. I've seen a lot of photographers using this now, thinking like, oh, it'd be great to have all this behind the scenes footage that I can use in my social media. Yeah, it's nice. But again, it's a lot of extra work, extra processing on the back end, and something else to worry about, especially if you're new to photographing elopements or photographing professionally. It's just one extra step that you don't need and one extra headache, in my opinion. And last thing that I want to touch on here is like a crazy backpack or case. These things are really nice to have. They keep your equipment safe when you travel or when you're hiking or whatever it may be. But it was like several $100s to start with. So I know I started with just using like my regular backpack or my regular travel backpack and like made sure my cameras were nice and like protected while they were in there. That's what Megan still uses after shooting elopements for, many, many years. She just has a standard REI hiking backpack. You don't need these crazy things. They're nice to have, but you don't necessarily need them. All right. My last little point about gear is, again, if you like to spend money on gear, I heard this early in my career about kind of some questions you should ask yourself when you're thinking about buying something new. And so the first one is, will this purchase make my job easier? If the answer is yes, it's a good start. Then the second question is, will it make my photos or client experience better? So really, we need a yes for both of those questions to justify purchasing something new, especially if it's a high ticket item like a camera, lens, or some of those other fancy things that I just mentioned. So do whatever you'd like. That's my 2 cents. Moving on to probably the most important or the best slide in this presentation is building a portfolio. So we've seen this across the board amongst many, many of students in the Elopement Photographer Mastermind. Everyone wants to put the little airplane emoji in their Instagram. They want to say, I'll travel anywhere, fly me anywhere, I shoot anywhere. But unfortunately, people, when you're building your business, it's not a good way to do it. We want you to focus on one location and one location only to start with. It's not crazy sexy, like, flying me to Italy, flying me to Australia, going to the mountains, all the different places. Just pick one place, get it on lock, make some money, build your portfolio at one location. It'll be worth it. I promise. I've seen it many times, and people are successful building their portfolio and their business on a single location to start. That being said, eloping couples want to see photos of eloping couples. Yeah, it's great to use stock photos of a certain spot, but people, when they're eloping and they're going to be spending, investing thousands of dollars in your services, they want to see what they're going to get. So they want to see photos of other couples eloping in that spot. Again, this where it comes down to focusing on one location. So you have the photos there. You don't have to travel all across the United States or the world to build your portfolio out in hopes that you may get booked in a certain spot. You have your one spot, you have your photos there, and people know what they're going to get, where you're going to shoot them, and what to expect. So that being said, building out that portfolio for one location, we recommend planning and photographing 3 couples, whether that's pure styled shoots, whether it's with like a workshop or retreat, not necessarily the best, but having 3 galleries with 3 different couples at that same location is key. The idea here is that you're going to be able to build trust with potential clients by being able to show kind of the diversity of that spot and of those couples. Seems kind of redundant. Do your 3 location or your 3 couples at one location. That is key. Again, if you take one thing away from this whole presentation, that would be it. 3 galleries, 1 location. All right. Next up, systems. So whether you're a wedding photographer, a newborn photographer, families, whatever it may be, for elopements, you're not just the photographer. You know that you're all of these things. You're the CEO. You have to market. You're doing social media. You're the photographer. You're going to have to hype people up, get people, excited, get them to pose, all the things. The thing that makes an elopement photographer different than those other types is that you are the planner, right? So when a couple comes to you, you may be their only vendor that they hire. So they're expecting you to know the location, plan the day, take the photos, and basically be in charge. So the planning is where elopements are set apart from weddings. And so, that's a pretty complex thing, like all of these different roles you're playing, in addition to what you need to do to get your business to run. So that's including marketing, client management, the logistics. Again, that goes hand in hand with being a planner. And then also like actually taking really good photos, editing them, and delivering them on time. So I want to stress the importance of having systems to keep everything organized. So again, it's not just showing up to a wedding here, doing a newborn session here. Basically, you're doing everything, planning it from the get-go, planning all the details, executing that day, and then delivering on the back end. I also recommend setting up all these systems before you get busy. So, as you're starting your business, there are a lot of things you're going to be doing. But you may say, oh, I only have one or two clients. I can keep track of them in my head, where this location is, what couple, what jobs they do, if they have friends or dogs or whoever's coming to their elopement. It's really easy when you have a very small number of clients at the very beginning. But when you start getting like five, six, seven more up to the 10s, 20s, 30s per year, you can't keep track of all of those details for all of those different couples. So you need to build your systems in early so they're robust, you're practiced, you know what to do at any given scenario for every couple, and you're delivering the same client experience to each. So the next couple of slides we'll just touch on very briefly. Just know there's lots of different channels that you'll be able to get in front of your potential clients, and each of them have their own nuances, their own pros and cons. So again, know that marketing is going to be a huge part of being an elopement photographer, and it's a little bit different from the wedding space because you don't have the huge like network of other vendors and word of mouth from other clients that you would in a wedding scenario. There's no bridesmaids or groomsmen to basically be recruited from the next wedding. There's no, florist or venue or planner that can refer to you. Basically, you're working all of those jobs. So again, marketing is going to be super important to get in front of the right people. All right. So the next system is basically how are you going to manage your clients? Again, I had this bullet in a couple of slides earlier. Having a system in place to keep everything organized is super important. Again, you're going to have clients spread out throughout the year. They're going to be in different stages of either inquiry, onboarding, planning, post processing, all the different things. So, having a place, whether that's a written system if you're old school and spreadsheets, or what we recommend is actually using a dedicated CRM software to keep all of that straight. So a CRM, if you're not familiar, stands for Customer Relationship Management. It's basically just a software that you can kind of keep track of a lot of that information, including emails, dialogue back and forth, contracts, your timeline can be put in there. So a lot of different things, planning logistical wise, can go in a CRM and keep everything straight and planned and assigned to every couple that you have. So it's going to just streamline your operation. Again, because it's going to be very systematic, you'll lay it out to begin with. Whether you set up automations or you're doing everything manually, it will have a set sequence. And so every couple that you have will go through that same sequence and have the same experience. Nothing will get slipped through the cracks or any balls dropped because you have a set series of operations. You can create repeatable processes, as I just mentioned. And you deliver a consistent client experience, which is really what we want. We want to make sure that couple A gets the same experience as couple B. Their elopement may be wildly different, maybe a desert, maybe on the beach, maybe a straight couple, maybe a trans couple, maybe a gay couple, whatever it may be. They want to have the same client experience across the board. The CRM that we recommend is Dubsado. We've been using Dubsado for years. It's amazing. It's affordable, keeps everything straight. It's very simple. It doesn't give you all the fluff that you don't need. I think it's just the perfect sweet spot of information, user friendliness at a good price point. There are other popular CRMs that we know a lot of people use, and those include like HoneyBook, Studio Ninja, 17 Hats, and Sprout Studio, just to name a few. So if you're already using one of those, I don't think there's a need to change, but pick one, stick with it, learn it, know it like the back of your hand, and it will be a huge, huge benefit for your business. All right. So next up is logistics. Again, this is going to be the main difference from the classic wedding photographer into the elopement photographer space. You are in charge. Basically, there's no planner. You are the planner. There's no venue. There's no one else telling you basically how to run the wedding day. You are in charge. And your couples, they don't know what to do. Like, probably they haven't eloped before. They probably don't have friends or families that have eloped before. So they don't know what to expect. So you need to be the expert guide and basically bring them through this whole process. That being said, again, because we're going back to one location, you need to be a specific expert at that one location. You are guiding your couples down the best trails with the best lighting, the best time of day, all of the things. You need to be an expert at that location because, again, you are in charge of the day. You're in charge of their experience. That also being said, you need to be the expert with all the other logistics to go along with that location. So that's parking. Do you have to pay? Is it going to be busy? What day of the week is it going to be? What times are they busy? Things like that. Are there restrooms nearby? Sometimes folks have, grandmas, parents coming to elopements, and having a bathroom nearby is going to be key. So again, knowing your location like the back of your hand is going to be hugely important having an accessible elopement. And then having alternatives too. Sometimes trails get closed. Sometimes parking lots get repaved and they're closed. So again, having alternatives, knowing the spots, having some different options, not necessarily in a timeline or shared with your couple off the bat, but having those in your back pocket in case you need it is going to be huge. Then, so speaking of timelines, so again, there's no planner creating the timeline about when dinner is going to be served, when speeches are going to be, when getting ready. Basically, this is all on you. So we have just like a little example over here to the right. Nothing too fancy, basically just an outline of what the day is going to look like. And so we start this process basically right after a couple books with us. We send out a questionnaire, probably like you're familiar with, asking different things about what their day looks like, what they want. Are there going to be a first dance, or are they going to pop champagne, whatever that may be, or what that day looks like for your couple? You need to know that from them. So having a questionnaire early in the planning process is important. Then after we get that questionnaire, we go ahead and start building that timeline. And then we share it and discuss it with our couple as early as possible. Elopements aren't necessarily kind of like the wedding space where you may get booked out a year or 2 years in advance. Sometimes elopements are kind of last minute. We get bookings anywhere from, 1 year out to, maybe a couple months, maybe even like a couple weeks. It just depends. So being able to develop a timeline that you're confident with, share it with your couple, and being able to iterate on is going to be very important and will be very, important on making a successful day, knowing that you have a plan for the day. And so then they can rely on you that you know what you're doing. Again, any given person may make these timelines more detailed or less. We like to have kind of the key things, where are we going to be, what time, and travel times are really important too. Again, because you're not going to be shooting like at a wedding where you may only be at one venue the entire time. You may be bouncing between a getting ready spot, a ceremony spot, a couple's portrait spot. A couple different locations is not uncommon. So knowing what those travel times look like and to incorporate those into your timeline is super valuable. Whether that's driving, hiking, jeeping, all the different things, you need to know what those travel times are. And don't just rely on Google Maps. We recommend running or doing dry runs of your elopements before the actual elopement day. So like, oh, this dirt road is all, washerboarded out or rutted out. And it's going to take me forever to get down it. Maybe we should have an option, or maybe we just plan to have extra time to get down that road. Also, add buffer time. If you've worked in the wedding space or probably the family space or any photography space there is, things take longer than you may expect. There's delays, there's, just random things happen that put you behind schedule. So adding buffer time is key. So then the last bullet is just practice, practice, practice. Just like everything, your first timeline may not be perfect. You may overshoot it, undershoot it, but just like any muscle, you have to kind of flex it. And so, putting in your reps, planning those styled shoots early so you have some experience, you'll be confident to basically present a timeline to your couple, the first couple that then books you for their elopement. All right. Next thing, logistics wise, is permits. Permits can be super intimidating if you've never done it before. So again, similar to planning and putting together a timeline, it's just putting your reps in and figuring out how the system works. And to start, you're the expert here. Again, your clients may not be familiar with the location spot. Maybe they think, oh, I'm from, the Midwest. I want to get married in Rocky Mountain National Park. I love the mountains. I want to do it there. But they don't know the first thing about getting a permit. Again, this kind of falls into our role as the expert and the guide. It's not your couple's responsibility to look into these things. It's yours. You're the professional. Put your work in and do it early. Doing it early, especially because, again, it's a complex process or can be complex. The rules are constantly changing. These National Park Service, Forest Service, whether it's all the different people that may issue permits, they all run differently. Sometimes they need months in advance. Sometimes they can get it approved like same day. It just depends. So start this process early so you make sure you have enough time to get the right approvals and you have the right permissions before taking your couple there. We like to start by asking our colleagues in the community, basically, like, has anyone has experience with XYZ National Park or XYZ State Park? Again, like having someone who's gone through it before is very helpful. But I say that with a grain of salt because, like I said, the laws and the rules are constantly changing. So just because your friend Susie shot at Zion National Park last year and the rules were like this doesn't mean it's going to be the same when you go and shoot there. So always confirm with the governing body that is in charge of that space. Again, it could be the National Park Service, could be the Forest Service, Bureau of Land Management, state, city, all the different things or all the different locations that govern these spaces. Get that permission from them. If you do find that like there's some wishy-washiness or like verbal agreements, we don't really like that again because they may get fired, they may leave, they may not know. Again, so when you are in doubt, get the agreements in writing. Again, if it's a commonplace like a national park, they have a set system, but not every national park is the same. So get it in writing, get it in hard copy. Don't just have it on your phone because, again, these remote places may be without service. So having something printed out, a hard copy to show an authority figure that would question, do you have a permit? You have that. Again, it would be a real shame and would be super embarrassing if you had taken a couple to a spot and you didn't have the permits and were asked to leave. Would totally ruin your day and your couple's day. So put in the due diligence, put in your time, get permitted correctly. And that last bullet is just being a good steward of the land. Again, a lot of people are taking advantage of not getting permits or basically, I don't know, just not being as honest as they should with the permits and locations. So, again, kind of like this leave no trace, be a good steward of the land, do your research, know if you need a permit or not, and just follow through and do it. You're a professional. You got this. All right, so now kind of into some more fun things to talk about, but there are common pitfalls and mindset traps that we hear often amongst new and even, seasoned elopement photographers. And like the saying says, excuses are like assholes. Everybody has one and they all stink. So let's just kind of go through a few and I can kind of maybe talk through them. There's probably a talk about almost every single one of these in Elopement Con. So again, I'll just touch on them very briefly. And this very first one I talked about a while ago with only focusing on one location. This, I'll travel anywhere or I'll shoot your elopement free if it's in, XYZ location. It sounds good, but couples aren't going to book you if you have that, unfortunately. Like they want to know what they're getting beforehand, and you need to be an expert in that location. Number two, but I don't live in insert your favorite Instagram famous elopement location. Colorado, the beach, Hawaii, the Dolomites, wherever it may be, it's hogwash. People elope all over the country and all over the world. We have had students and we see people that do elopements in Washington, D.C., in Arkansas, in Florida, in Alaska. I mean, like any given place you can think of, someone could potentially do an elopement there. And so you don't have to live in these epic Yosemites or Rocky Mountain National Park to be an elopement photographer. There is a need across the US for these services. So don't let that be an excuse. Along that line, we also have seen lots of photographers that may be based somewhere, but they work full time somewhere else. Again, as you're building out a successful elopement photography business, that may look like 10 elopements a year, may look like 30 or 40. So, again, you can just travel to those spots. It does cut into your bottom line and your profit of having to travel every time, but you could live in, you know, Armpit, Texas, and work exclusively out of Rocky Mountain National Park, and that could be fine. You can make it work. So again, don't let where you live restrict your success of where you can be an elopement photographer. Next, but I don't want to climb mountains. Same thing. People are eloping in all kinds of different environments, in cities, in the mountains, on the beach, in forests. I mean, everywhere you can think of, people want to elope in non-traditional places. So don't let the ability or where you're located basically dictate if you can do this job or not. Like you don't have to climb a mountain. You can take a Jeep. You can take a helicopter. You can take a boat. All these different things. You don't have to be the fittest person and climb mountains to be an elopement photographer. Next up is kind of this more of a marketing kind of spiel of, oh, my art will sell itself. Like, yes, you're probably an amazing photographer and your parents love it. your clients love you, but if other people, potential clients, don't see your work and they're not exposed to you, they may not know you exist. And obviously, then they can't hire you. So there is an aspect of marketing and putting yourself out there to get booked and to be a professional. Unfortunately, that's kind of the way it is. I know a lot of photographers do want to lean back on their art. And I thought so too, thinking of like, oh, I'm going to, I have these epic shots. Everyone's going to want to hire me. But if they don't know you exist, they can't hire you. Next, there's no money in elopements. The high end I want to make a good living. I want to do weddings. I want to do luxury weddings. There's plenty of money in elopements. We know lots of folks charging, three, four, five, six, seven, eight, and up $1,000 for elopements. So there is money there. A lot of people across the US and the world have lots of money to spend on weddings. We know this. Weddings are super expensive. And though elopements may or may not be cheaper than throwing a wedding, there is money to be spent and money to be made on elopements. Next, the market is too saturated. Bullshit. So there are a lot of elopement photographers, yes, but there are many more people wanting to elope than there are photographers. And not every couple is going to vibe with every other photographer. Like, you are your own unique self, and basically you're one of a kind as an elopement photographer. Like, kind of a cliche thing to say, but you are you. Only you can capture the moments like you can. Only you can plan a day and have that dynamic with your couple like you can. So, no, it's not too saturated. There's, again, plenty of couples needing photographers, booking across the country at all kinds of different rates. So, there is room in this market for you. And then finally, this idea of, oh, yeah, social media I'm going to just put a lot of time into social media, and that's going to be my strategy for getting booked. A lot of people get bookings from social media. It's a good way to show your personality, to show off your work, but it's not a one tier marketing plan, right? It's one thing. It does take a lot of effort to be on social media, to post every day or to post very often, which will just kind of burn you out. So having a multi-tiered marketing strategy, whether that's building SEO, writing blogs, doing Google ads, but again, social media should not just be your only marketing strategy for getting bookings. All right, so we kind of went over a lot of things very surface level, but now let's get into the first 4 steps of how to become an elopement photographer. So, like we started off this presentation, determine your why. It's going to be important when things get tough to know why you're doing what you're doing. Having kind of at the core of why you want to be an elopement photographer, like at the forefront of your mind, knowing that is huge. Next, acquire and know your gear. Again, you don't have to go out and buy all of the latest and greatest, the drones, XYZ camera, 4K video, all the different things. You know what you have, know what you need to buy, and know how to use it, most important. Know how to use your gear in good lighting and bad lighting. Know how to take care of it, keep it clean, keep all your batteries charged and working, functioning correctly. Third thing, again, determine that single location, just one location first. I promise you, if you nail one location, you will be successful. And then you can copy and paste that to your next location and then become more exotic as a destination elopement photographer. You can build to there, but start with just a single location. And then most importantly, from that location, plan and photograph 3 couples, whether those be styled shoots, your friends, whatever it is. Get your 3 couples to show that you know that space, that location, and yeah, that's how to start. I'll leave you with this quote, and again, kind of cheesy. It's a song lyric from a kind of a folk band, the Avett Brothers. If you like them, awesome. If you've never heard of them, that's okay too. It was a quote that I really, really enjoyed and kind of, I don't know, I really felt it when I was getting into the elopement space of decide what to be and go be it. So if you want to be an elopement photographer, become an elopement photographer. There's no right way or wrong way of doing it. If you're in one career and you want to switch, do it. I did it. I was an engineer. I'm a mechanical engineer. I worked on nuclear weapons, and now I'm doing elopement photography. So you can change, you can do whatever you want to do. So yeah, if you want to be an elopement photographer, you can go do it. You got this. A lot of people have done it before you. A lot of people will do it after you, but only you can be the elopement photographer that you can be.
Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of Stoked. If you enjoyed the show and you'd like to help support the podcast, please subscribe, leave a review, and tell a friend. If you're looking for more inspiring elopement photography content, check us out on Instagram at Megan McPhail. And if you'd like to hear more about my business coaching and how I can personally help you hit six figures as an elopement photographer, then check out my website at www.meganmcphail.com.